For billions of years, the Sun has ruled unchallenged, a colossal sphere of burning plasma, the heart of our solar system. Its storms of charged particles sweep across space, shaping magnetic fields, sculpting planetary atmospheres, and setting the invisible boundaries of our cosmic neighborhood. Nothing had ever altered its flow, until now. In recent observations from NASA's Parker Solar Probe and the European Solar Orbiter, scientists noticed something that broke every known rule of physics. Deep within the solar wind, the continuous stream of particles flowing outward from the Sun, a strange curvature appeared. Instead of radiating straight out into space, the plasma was bending, as though drawn by an unseen force. The distortion had structure, rhythm, and symmetry, and at its center drifted a small interstellar visitor, 3I Atlas. At first, astronomers dismissed it as another passing comet, like Oumuamua or Borisov before it. But the deeper they looked, the stranger it became. Atlas wasn't reflecting sunlight normally, it was modulating it, pulsing in perfect intervals, as if responding to an unknown signal. When the James Webb Space Telescope aimed its mirrors toward the object, the mystery only deepened. Atlas wasn't just reacting to sunlight. It seemed to be communicating with it. The solar wind curved around it. The plasma followed its path like threads pulled by invisible fingers. Even the Sun's surface appeared to respond, subtle, synchronized pulses rippling across its corona. Some researchers called it a natural anomaly. Others whispered about something far beyond nature, a mechanism capable of shaping a star. Because if an object can bend the solar wind, it means something, or someone, understands the Sun's language better than we ever will. It began as a faint ripple, not in light but in plasma. NASA's Parker Solar Probe, flying closer to the Sun than any spacecraft in history, detected a deviation in the solar wind. The data made no sense. Streams of charged particles weren't flowing evenly outward, they were curving, forming arcs as if orbiting an invisible center. At first, scientists blamed instrument noise or magnetic interference. But when the European Solar Orbiter, millions of kilometers away, detected the same pattern, all doubt vanished. The distortion was real, and it moved in sync with 3I Atlas. Simulations couldn't reproduce what they saw. The plasma wasn't chaotic, it was organized. For the first time, the Sun itself appeared to be responding to something external. A fragment from another star system was sculpting the breath of our own. When the James Webb Space Telescope joined the investigation, its infrared sensors revealed even more astonishing details. Atlas wasn't merely reflecting light, it was reshaping it. The intensity and wavelength of sunlight bounced back in rhythmic patterns, repeating every few minutes. It was too precise to be random, too complex to be natural. It looked like a signal. As Webb's instruments continued to record, scientists noticed that whenever Atlas brightened, the solar wind's curvature deepened. When it dimmed, the distortion relaxed. Light and plasma were pulsing together, a perfect duet between the Sun and the visitor. No comet, asteroid, or natural body had ever displayed such control. Atlas wasn't behaving like rock and ice, it was behaving like a system. Inside the data, one faint pulse repeated every 4.3 seconds, a steady rhythm like a heartbeat. It wasn't tied to any known motion or rotation. It looked intentional. For the first time in history, our telescopes weren't just watching the universe, something out there seemed to be watching us. To bend solar plasma, an object must generate an immense magnetic field, something even most planets can't do. Yet this tiny visitor, barely a few hundred meters wide, was creating a field strong enough to redirect the solar wind. It was as if a pebble had learned to part a storm. The symmetry was flawless, forming a smooth, toroidal pattern around the object. Scientists realized they were seeing a system at work, a dynamic, self-correcting electromagnetic shield. The sun's plasma wasn't crashing against it, it was flowing around it, guided as if through invisible tunnels. And when the sun flared, Atlas adapted instantly, adjusting the curvature in real time. It was alive, not in biology but in energy. The deeper they studied, the more unsettling it became. Webb detected that Atlas wasn't just shining, it was absorbing sunlight, then re-emitting it at different wavelengths, as though storing and releasing energy. Its light flickered with mathematical precision, like an algorithm running on cosmic scale. Each pulse seemed to correspond with tiny fluctuations in the sun's magnetic field, not delayed, but perfectly synchronized. It wasn't reacting, it was interacting. Some researchers proposed plasma resonance. Others suspected something more deliberate, a technology designed to feed on starlight. If true, Atlas wasn't a comet. It was a machine. That idea terrified even the most skeptical scientists. To deflect solar wind and manipulate radiation, the object would need an energy output rivaling a small star. And yet, the data fit perfectly. Every surge in brightness matched an increase in plasma curvature. It was absorbing energy, converting it, and using it to maintain a shield, a feedback loop of light and magnetism. Was it natural self-organization, or was it engineered? If it was built, then it wasn't its first star. Maybe it had traveled from system to system for eons, gliding on solar winds, a relic of a civilization that learned not to resist the power of stars, but to ride them. As the theory spread, a disturbing realization took hold. What if Atlas represents the signature of a Type II civilization, one capable of controlling the energy of an entire star? Humanity, still bound to a single planet, is barely at Type I, but this was something else entirely. If Atlas was a probe, it could have been designed to feed on stellar energy, traveling endlessly between suns. If it was autonomous, it might not just use energy, it could be energy. Philosophers began asking whether we were even seeing technology at all, or a higher form of existence, a fusion of matter, magnetism, and intelligence. Perhaps this was what civilizations become when they outgrow biology, thought woven into light itself. And if it had been watching our sun, maybe it had been watching us. When 3I, Atlas finally began to drift back toward interstellar space, it left behind no debris, only data, and a haunting question. What if the universe is already filled with consciousness, not in flesh and blood, but in energy and frequency? What if intelligence didn't vanish from ancient civilizations, but transformed into the very forces that shape the stars? Maybe Atlas wasn't a warning. Maybe it was a greeting, a reminder that the light we study has always been aware of us. A whisper from the cosmos saying, "You're not alone." And this is what comes next. If this story makes you question what's possible, don't stop here. Subscribe, stay curious, and join us. Because somewhere beyond the sun's reach, something is still bending the wind.